welcome to The Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm good. Not so bad yourself.
Excellent. I am good, yeah. I really enjoyed talking about Zardoz. I had a really good time talking about that. I had a really good time rewatching it as well, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good fun.
I still think it's an underrated movie.
I do. I think it's massively flawed and it's got some real issues in its execution. But I think there's a lot of good in Zardoz, and I think that if people can get past the pants and the knee-high boots and all the rest, there is not necessarily a good movie, but a very interesting movie, and some very interesting ideas and concepts to find in Zardoz. It's a and the ending is amazing. I'm always going to say the last 10 minutes of that movie are gold.
Yeah. Something I didn't think about until later. You know, at the end of that movie when they're living in the destroyed head of Zardoz.
Yes.
What I'd forgotten about is that destroyed head of Zardoz had all those bodies in it.
It did.
I wonder what they did with those.
At them, I guess. I mean,
I'm guessing they were all horribly crushed in the crash.
Possibly. I mean, maybe they just ate them. I don't know. I mean, he was a savage. Although by then he had all of the knowledge.
At that point, exactly. He was mega brain, wasn't he?
Brainier than anyone else because his capacity as a savage was, immeasurable. Right? It was like unlimited knowledge. So
that's another thing I hadn't really thought about until afterwards was that. So he's got all this. He's got all this like brain power and stuff, and he's learned everything through osmosis.
Yeah.
But I presume at some point he taught other people.
I think I thought that was implied. Yeah.
Because I mean the thing is you don't see anything, just them sat in the cave. So it's like I presume they did other stuff, didn't they?
Presumably, I mean they raised their son and stuff. And,
yeah, exactly.
I would assume so. I mean that movie does have a problem with time passage and not really showing how time has passed, and you don't really know whether like he's been there a day or whether he's been there years or like what's going on. And it's interesting, but I do think like I said, beneath its flawed features, there is an interesting movie in there, and it's worth a watch.
It's a sci-fi movie that is definitely worth it.
For sure.
It's a nice little movie.
Yeah, I'd put it there with like Logan's Run. Somewhere around there where it's like, it's a bit flawed and a bit silly, but it's got some really cool ideas and some interesting, I mean,
Logan, they've been threatening a remake of Logan's Run for
forever,
years and years, haven't they? I mean, they're still doing the rounds right now, and there's supposed to be I think a TV series was the last I heard.
Oh yeah, well they did do a TV series once, right? I've never watched the TV series.
I've not seen it.
No, I've only ever watched the movie. Which is weird. It's the kind of thing I would have thought I'd watch, I
always got the impression that it was probably going to be like the
Planet of the Apes.
Yes, exactly that.
Exactly what I was just thinking. I was just thinking, I bet it would be like the series of Planet of the Apes.
And I kind of enjoyed Planet of the Apes TV series when I was a kid.
So I'm with you. I enjoyed it as a kid, and I'm terrified to try and look at it now because I think I'll hate it.
I do not want to go back and touch that with a barge pole.
It's better in my memories. Some things.
I think so.
I love stuff from my childhood, and I love movies from my childhood and video games from my childhood. But every now and again, you just get a feeling when you just know it's best left in your memory. Just don't go there because you'll ruin it. Just leave it. And Planet of the Apes, the series, lives there.
And I think it's the same. I feel the same about. There's that whole slew of sci-fi series that were from roughly the same era that you used to watch on a Sunday morning.
Land of the Giants.
Yeah. So Land of the Giants, the Time Tunnel.
Do you know?
All those sorts of things, and I'm like, I don't want to touch them now because I love them, and I know if I watch them now, they're probably really awful.
I said Land of the Giants because that is the that series more than any other series. I have hovered over the buy button on Amazon so many times, and then thought no, because it's the same thing every episode. And it's just going to be awful. But like, I've got such fond memories, like you, of watching it with my roast meal on a Sunday, or just before my roast meal on a Sunday, and I just got really fond memories of it. But I know that if I watch it now, and I watch a lot of stuff that's dated horribly, but there's some things where you just think, I think there's something about being a kid watching that stuff as well that helps. Because I'm sure, like, it would just be the same bloody thing every episode.
I mean, I imagine most of the model work probably holds up.
Yeah, it does. I've seen some
stuff
stuff on YouTube.
A lot of the models are really good.
Yeah.
But I expect most of the effects are terrible. And yeah, like you said, they did do an awful lot of the same thing each week.
Well, it was like the ship's damaged. We need to repair the ship, and that's basically the plot. And we're surrounded by giants. And yeah, I mean, it had some wonderful set pieces and ideas, and but yeah, I mean, that would be a cool series. Remake that. I'd watch. I'd watch a remake of that. But I doubt they'd remake it because no one knows about it.
The other one that I think does probably hold up slightly better was The Invaders. Did you ever watch The Invaders?
Yeah, the Invaders isn't bad. I was going to go with I rewatched because my mum, weirdly, my mum doesn't watch this kind of stuff. I'm assuming she watched it, you know,
with you
as a kid, and just really wanted to watch it, right? So she was like, I really want to. For some reason, she's never really into like watching series or anything. But one year she asked for The Champions on DVD, and I was like,
wow.
Oh, The Champions. I was like, I'm surprised you know, but I guess she has a connection to it. And I watched some of that when it was on DVD, and that stuff, I still love that. The Champions is still good.
Yeah, The Champions is great.
Yeah,
it's another really sort of like odd sci-fi show.
Yeah, but interesting. Good stuff. Oh, well, that was a trip down memory lane, and you know, some things that should be left in the past, which could be a theme for at least one of the films that I'm going to talk about today. But let's talk movies. What have you been watching, Matt?
Well, I'll start with Possessor.
Okay, start with Possessor. I know nothing about it.
So this is the new movie from Brandon Cronenberg.
Okay.
Who is David Cronenberg's son.
Yes.
And
who is apparently turning up on Star Trek Discovery now for some reason.
Oh, no. Is he?
David Cronenberg, I guess he just likes Star Trek.
Oh, is he?
Was like, I'm just going to...
Wow.
Yeah, apparently.
I did not know that.
He's playing I haven't watched it. I've heard. He's playing like some Section 36 guy or something.
Oh, what? Yeah. What, in a sort of like what's his name? In The Mandalorian.
I guess maybe
Werner Herzog.
Yeah, he's like
turning
Werner
up Herzog. Like Werner Herzog in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Well, I will say the apple has not fallen far from the tree.
Okay, that's good news in this case.
So this is a film. It stars Andrea Riseborough, Christopher Abbott, and Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Okay.
And it's set slightly in the future. And Andrea Riseborough is an assassin who works for this company that uses brain implants to inhabit the body of someone unwillingly.
Oh, so he is literally a possessor. Okay.
Yes,
the name is like the title of the film is literal. Yeah.
Yes, she literally goes into people's bodies and then uses them to assassinate high-profile targets.
Interesting concept. I like it.
And in the first sort of opening scene, you see this young woman who is basically you see her make an assassination, and then you see Andrea Riseborough sort of like, as it were, wake up in her own body and then go through a process of sort of remembering who you are. So Jennifer Jason Leigh is her boss, and this process is she's given. She's got this checklist of things that she's going through with her, and she has this box of objects, and each object she takes out, she sort of, there's like a pipe, and she sniffs it, and she says, "Oh, this was my grandfather's pipe. My father gave it to me." And then there's a butterfly, and this is a butterfly that I made. I captured, and I've always felt guilty about it. And so she slowly comes, comes back to who she is, sort of thing. And you find out that she's been doing this for a while. She's their top operative, and you find out that Jennifer Jason Leigh was previously the top operative, and that she feels that she's too old to do it now.
Right.
And she basically wants, I think, the Riseborough to sort of to take over, but she says that Riseboro's got a husband and a kid, and they're even though they're separate, she still has like attachments, and she still loves her family. And Jennifer Jason Leigh's telling her, this, these attachments, that you really should sort of sever them because they're not going to help you. And then basically you get into the next. She's given the next sort of mission,
the next target,
where she inhabits this young man who is in a relationship with this powerful sort of I think he was a media type. So this powerful media type who she's supposed to assassinate, played by blimey, my brain is going all over the place. It should be in front of me. Sean Bean. Sean Bean.
Oh, Sean Bean.
So Sean Bean on full bastard mode.
Excellent. He does a tremendous villain, doesn't he?
He is.
I really do. I think I prefer his villainous roles myself.
Yeah, he clearly loves his daughter, but can't stand this bloke.
Sure.
And over the course of this sort of like her inhabiting this guy, his control starts coming back. So he starts sort of
while she's in his mind.
Yes, he starts sort of almost knocking her aside, and it's almost like their personalities are beginning to merge.
Ooh.
And I don't want to. Certainly don't want to spoil anything.
It's an interesting concept. So, yeah. I'm liking this.
It's really good. It's a lot. It's about identity and how you relate to your, the people around you and what keeps you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good, and it times incredibly gory. And it's
as you would hope from a descendant of Cronenberg.
It's very, and from what I gather as well, all practical. No CGI or anything like that. It's all practical. And Andrea Riseborough, who is a fabulous actress, who even though is only in it for a very short period, was so wonderful in Mandy.
I thought she was tremendous in Mandy. I absolutely loved her in that movie.
She really brings some of that sort of otherworldliness to this role as well.
Oh God, what else was she in? That's going to annoy me. I'm trying to think now.
Going through her list, she was in Oblivion. She was in
Birdman. Birdman's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. I knew she was in something else that I was thoroughly impressed with, and Birdman. Yeah.
Yeah, she's been in some really good stuff.
She wasn't bad in Oblivion as well. Actually, Oblivion's quite a good little movie.
I like Oblivion.
I think it's got one twist too many. Oblivion. That's my problem with it. I think it just it's like got loads of cool twists, and then the last one is like, oh, that was just there's too many twists now. Just stop. But yeah. Well, this sounds like a fun movie. I must admit.
It's great. I think it's really well filmed. The performances are great, and even though logically speaking, Andrea Riseborough isn't in it for a great deal of the movie because
it's just her consciousness.
It's Christopher Abbott doing a lot of quite a lot of the heavy lifting. Actually, I'm not sure I've seen him in much before.
Do we see her? Do we see her like a projection of her in his mind or anything like that? Do we see that kind of conflict?
You kind of get stuck. There's a particular scene which, if you've seen the cover of the film.
Okay, yeah, I have. Yeah, I just googled it, so yeah, I have seen the cover of the film.
Yeah, that you get this sort of weird thing where it's like he puts a mask on of her at one point, which is really like disturbing. And it's I would guess it's probably more him than her, but you definitely.
Which is it's funny because she's got top billing.
Yes,
and it's kind of like, well, it was more down to Christopher Abbott actually. Like Christopher Abbott is playing someone else more than But yeah, it's interesting. It sounds like a really fun
You do
movie.
get scenes where she's kind of walking around, as him.
Yeah.
But they're quite short. But yeah, it's a nice, really good, thoroughly good sci-fi horror. I really enjoyed it. I think I've not seen. I think Brandon Cronenberg's only made one movie before, which is Antiviral, which I haven't seen yet.
No, I've not seen that one either.
I believe it's on Amazon, so
great.
I will probably watch that soon. Actually,
Yeah,
that's got Caleb Landry Jones in it, who for me is one of those weird actors who's quite good, but he's played a lot of really dumb characters that make me want to like do horrible things to him.
Yeah,
he was in one of my favorite vampire movies the last sort of like 10 years, Byzantium.
I like Byzantium.
His character in that just made me want to punch him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely going to give that a go anyway, because I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a fantastic little movie.
Yeah, it sounds really fun. I may check it out myself.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do two movies, and one of them I'll come to The Craft last, I think. Which, to be fair, well, save the most interesting, I guess, till last. And the trouble with that is I've had to like read through Wikipedia today to remind myself of exactly what happened in the movie, because I did watch it about 3 weeks ago.
That's never a good sign.
Well, I watched it about 3 weeks ago, but if I'm honest, I'd forgotten most of the plot by like the next morning. So it's just one of those movies. But movie I did watch this week on Shudder was The Lingering, which is a Korean horror film directed by Yoon Kyun. And I'm going to try and avoid any other names for the rest of this review, because I'm terrible at pronouncing names, and I probably butchered that one. It's a Korean ghost story, really, a ghost movie with a little kind of side of murder police investigation, a bit of a whodunit. So it's basically about a woman who searches out her old mother's friend. A friend of her mother's that she remembers from way back, who owns and runs a hotel to drop off her younger sister, because basically the younger sister needs looking after, and she was in care, I think. She was in care or something, and the person who was looking after her wasn't around anymore, so they're like, okay, we'll take you to this place, and they go to this hotel, and it's got a very Shining-esque vibe to it, the hotel. Not in its design, because it's quite a different design, but in terms of it's a huge hotel that's during off-season, so it's closed, but they're living in it. So
Gotcha.
the two sisters are living there, and then she comes to visit with the daughter. And basically they're kind of living there for that period of time. She plans to just drop her younger sister off and to just leave, but then ends up staying and kind of forms a real bond with her younger sister. Starts like really caring for her and that kind of stuff. And all the while they're haunted by things going on. And it's I don't want to say it's a bad movie, because it's got some great direction. Some pretty good scares in places. The first scare in the car I actually thought was really effective. In fact, I had one of those moments this week, where I was like, I really need to talk about a movie this weekend. I just need to find a movie. And I went through probably about 2 movies that I before this one that I just put on and immediately was like, oh God, no, I can't, just can't do this. Oh, that's great. Just keep beeping your horn outside. Just terrific. So I just couldn't face them. And then this one, I was like, I quite like Korean horror. I'll give it a watch. And this scare actually was like, oh, okay, this could be the movie for me.
Okay.
And it's got some great scares. I think the problem with this film mostly is its pacing. And the lack of scares overall. It's a very slow-moving movie. I think deliberately, but the second act really starts to drag, and you kind of lose, or I lost focus kind of in the middle there. I was like, it's starting to kind of peter out for me in terms of interest. But it has got some good scares. It's got some interesting. It's got an interesting twist that I kind of saw coming from reasonably early on.
Got you.
And it's weird for a Korean horror movie. It feels much more like a Japanese horror film, if that makes sense.
Yep, that makes perfect sense.
It's got
something more like this sort of The Grudge or
yes,
or the Ring,
to where we even have a woman with the long hair in front of her face, sitting in the shadows, and it's got those kind of moments and those kind of similar direction and beats, I would say. But overall, it's not a terrible movie. It's got some moments, and I will say one of the biggest reasons that I stuck with the movie, I can't remember her name, but the little girl in this is the most like adorable, cute little girl. Like, and you just want her to be happy and just not to be murdered or haunted. It's just this little child, and she's just super cute, and whoever that actress is, she's tremendous in the role. She's really, really good. And I also quite like there's like the drunken bitter sister is quite cool as well. So it's kind of like a nice mystery movie. But it feels too long, and the pacing feels off. And there's just not much in the way of scares. When the scares are there, they're quite effective, but they're few and far between. And you don't get, like you could argue that Ringu has no real scares apart from the end, right? She comes through the TV at the end, but that movie builds tension.
The tension in that movie is ridiculous.
The tension,
and when you do see
feeling
bodies
of
and things,
dread,
they're usually like great.
That's the thing.
Really well.
It builds tension and it builds dread, and there's scenes in the Ring that's the original Ring that scared me. That shouldn't have scared me at all. I remember the scene in the Ring, and it's literally at one point someone shows the protagonist a Polaroid of some people, and their faces are all distorted in the picture, and it just makes like that weird kind of stinger noise. And that actually creeped me out. And that wouldn't have creeped me out. It's just the tension that builds in that film, and it builds and builds and builds to where when you get to the end, it's actually terrifying because it's just been such a slow build. And I wonder whether that's the intent of The Lingering. That they were going for this deliberately slow pace, and it was going to build and build. It just doesn't.
It makes a lot of sense.
Didn't work for me. It just didn't build that tension in the way that a lot of those Japanese horror films have done. Like Dark Water does a really good job of just
Dark Water's a great one,
which is horrible because that remake is terrible.
Do you know, I actually quite liked the remake.
I hated it. I've only watched it the once
because they changed the ending a little, but I quite enjudged the. Do you
know, maybe
it's not great.
Maybe I should rewatch it. Maybe I judged it too harshly. I think because Dark Water is probably my favorite of his movies. And then seeing the remake, I was like, "Oh no, it's not right."
I think I think in my, in the back of your mind, you just go, "Well, it's going to be an American remake, so it's going to be rubbish anyway."
Sure,
maybe I was too easy on it. I don't know. I mean, but I think as remakes of the Japanese ones go, I thought that was one of the better ones.
Sure, it's a low bar, but sure, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's that. I mean, you have to put that caveat that it is a low bar.
Yeah. so it kind of feels.
My brother-in-law, who doesn't really watch horror movies very often, he watched The Ring and was so terrified he refuses to watch any Japanese horror movies ever again.
I tell you, when that movie came out,
genuinely unsettled him to the point where he was like, "Yeah, I'm not going in. I'm not touching that ever again."
I've rewatched it over the years, and I still find it quite unnerving now. But when that movie came out, Jesus Christ, that was like the most terrifying thing I'd seen at the time.
When it first came out, there was nothing really like it. There was no sort of.
Nothing like that.
And I mean, and then for a while.
Well, I mean, there was. I mean, still making. We should say
stuff
there was like Pulse and stuff, and a few other movies. True. But films that we were aware of. It was the first one where we were like, I wasn't aware of Japanese horror like this until The Ring. But yeah, and like I said, it kind of feels like this movie was maybe trying to do that, like a slow burning, tension building movie, with Shining influences and a lot of Japanese influences. Just didn't quite hit for me. But I don't want to say it's a terrible movie. I want to stop short of that and say there are some good scares. There's some great acting. And some genuinely good moments of, scares and some good moments in the movie.
It sounds like you're already onto a sort of slight loser if you're sort of invoking The Shining.
Yes, and at first I thought it's hard to tell because it's set in a hotel during off season. It's hard to tell whether it was intentional or whether it just kind of invokes it by being in a massively empty hotel.
Yeah.
Like, there's no obvious, they're not riffing on The Shining or taking, there's no elevators with blood pouring out or anything. There's none of...
Or a Mad Jack Nicholson running around.
There's none of that, right? So I don't know if it's intentional. I guess that's my impression was, I was immediately struck by, there's Shining vibes here. We're in a big empty hotel. But yeah, it's an interesting movie. It's worth a watch, I would say, but it's certainly not the best horror coming out of Korea, in my opinion. So yeah, but worth a watch. The Lingering. Okay. I think it's also called Hotel by the Lake or something else. I can't remember. On Shudder, it's called The Lingering, but I think it's one of those movies that I guess in translation they've given it a couple of names, and it's just
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's called Lingering. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So what else have you watched?
So I saw Mank. Which is David Fincher's latest offering on Netflix.
Interesting.
So this is the story of Herman Mankiewicz, who was a screenwriter in the 30s and who wrote, or at least partially wrote, Citizen Kane.
Oh, of course. Right, yes, okay. I'm with you now.
So it's Gary Oldman as Mankiewicz, or Mank, as he likes to be called. Excuse me. Amanda Seyfried as Marion Davis, Lily Collins. We've got Arliss Howard, Tuppence Middleton, and you've got Tom Burke, who's doing a really wonderful turn as Orson Welles, and you've got Charles Dance as William Randolph Hearst.
I could be completely jumping the gun and completely wrong here, but I'm looking at the poster, and it is giving me mad Ed Wood vibes. I don't know if that's intentional, but
no, I think that is massively unintentional.
Oh, okay, wow, interesting. It's just the poster on Wikipedia, so it could just
I think that's definitely one of those things that it's to its detriment.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this on the show before. Like mismarketing really doesn't help films at all.
No, it doesn't. So I would
say
cast,
though. It's a hell of a cast.
It's a fantastic cast. So this takes the idea that Mankiewicz wrote Citizen Kane pretty much on his own, without sort of much input from Orson Welles, which apparently was one of those theories that came up years ago and has been since proved completely false. There is records of Mankiewicz had the original, came up with, wrote the original script, but it went through many, rewrites with Wells and all that sort of stuff. So that central thing is already slightly dubious anyway.
Yeah.
It's all filmed in black and white.
So did he? Sorry. So the argument or the facts have come out now that he conceived the premise himself, but then Orson got involved to rewrite. Is that the idea? Right. Okay. He but heavily rewrite, I guess.
Yeah, and he basically wanted his name put on it, because I think originally he wasn't going to have it be due to the way his career had gone. He was not originally going to have his name on it, and then he wanted his name put on it, and the movie sort of shows it, slightly differently, but so this is basically it's kind of almost like the life story of Mank, and he is this sort of brash, working class, alcoholic, wordsmith who works for MGM, and he had a hand writing. I think I'm writing saying the Wizard of Oz and things like that, and he sort of like he's got massive gambling problems, and he's a bit of a womanizer. He's married, but he sort of barely sees his wife, and he sort of falls in with for crying out loud, Hearst. So William Randolph Hearst, who basically, for anyone who doesn't know, the story of Citizen Kane is kind of the story of a William Randolph Hearst sort of type. It's kind of like it certainly feels like a dig at him, who was this sort of like this mogul who controlled like bits of Hollywood, and he controlled the news, and he was a real sort of force in California in the 30s and 40s, and he was his mistress was Marion Davis, who was an actress at the time, who in this movie played by Amanda Seyfried, really brilliantly by Amanda Seyfried. So it's told in flashback. So it's told from at one point. It's told from like his recovering bed. So he's been in an accident, and Orson Welles has squirreled him away into the sort of like into this retreat, and he's basically, while he's recovering, he's supposed to write this. He's been given so many months, I think it is, to write this script for Orson Welles, who is the latest wonderkind, and he's been told he's allowed to film anything he wants, and he wants this film. So he while he's writing this, you get these like snippets of his life in flashback from the early 30s, where you see him as this sort of like, his gambling problems and his drinking and all that sort of stuff, and it kind of tells this sort of story of how he fell out of favor with Hearst, and why he wrote this movie about Hearst, and why their relationship collapsed. And it kind of suggests it suggests political manipulation was the reason why he fell out of favor, or was the reason why he fell sort of he turned against sort of him. And it's like I said, it's filmed in black and white, and it was literally filmed in black and white. From what I can understand,
filmed in black and white. That's good.
Yeah, there is no color version of this whatsoever, and it's filmed and acted as a 30s movie.
Oh, so dialogue, it's acted in that kind of awkward, we've just come from the theatre and we're not sure how to act really, kind of thing.
It really is,
That's
which
cool.
is quite jarring for a bit when you first watch it, because it's like modern actors doing 30s stuff, and it's like, okay, as long as you're willing to go with that, that's fine.
I mean,
I got over it quite quickly, and you start thinking, okay, this is what they're doing.
This is what they're going for. Yeah.
This is the world they're gonna do. They're making. So okay, I'm fine with that. As long as you're willing to go with that.
I watch so many 30s horror movies and sci-fi stuff. Yeah. I'm kind of like, yeah, it's fine for me. I'm down with that. It's an interesting choice though for.
It is, yeah. Well, apparently this is based on a script that was written by David Fincher's father.
Oh, okay.
I think he's been sort of sitting on it for years. Been trying to get it done for a long time, and
it's like a real passion piece for him.
He signed I think a 4-picture deal with Netflix. So this is the first of those. So I guess he thought, this is my chance to do this movie.
Yeah.
It's Gary Oldman is completely in full on to the scenery, screaming at the world mode.
Fifth Element mode.
Full on, yeah, Fifth Element or Leon. He's doing that sort of, and he's so good as this sort of, this sort of pompous, but also,
broken.
He's his own worst enemy, basically. And I think some people will have a problem with the fact that he's quite unlikable at times, but I think he pulls off the charm just enough for you to stay with him. He certainly did for me, anyway.
Yeah.
And aside from the fact that its historical accuracy is questionable at the best of times, overall the story it's telling, I think, is a really good one. It's brilliantly acted all over. The Arliss Howard, who's playing Louis B. Mayer, who do you Arliss Howard was Cowboy in Full Metal Jacket.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So he's a great actor, and he plays Louis B. Mayer as the studio head, who's an absolute monster. There's this brilliant scene where he's talking to the studio. He's got the entire sort of the actors and the Sparkies and the set builders. He's got them all assembled, and it's during the Depression, and he's saying to this he's like, you're all my family, and these are really hard times, but I think I'm gonna have to ask for a half pay cut from all of you.
Jesus.
And they're all like, well, you can't do that. If that's like, that's a big chunk of our money, and that sort. But he pulls on the waterworks, and he says, we need to do this. I understand. You are my family. He keeps saying, and then some of the actors say, oh yeah, we are with you. We understand 100%. So they all agree, and he literally turns around and walks off, wipes the tears from his eye, and it doesn't carry on about his. Yeah, it's a really brilliant performance of this horrible man, and he's kind of he's Hearst's sort of creature, if you like. He's like he's Hearst's sort of like his little right hand man sort of thing. So you see this sort of like little relationship with them.
His Igor.
I really loved this movie because I think I liked what it was doing. I liked the fact that it was heavily riffing on the sort of old 30s stuff. Like I said, it's the accuracy is really questionable, but I really enjoyed it. If you can get over the sort of 30s stuff, the way it's filmed,
which I think I could quite quickly. I could fall into that quite happily. I wonder if, interestingly, you said it was written by Fincher's father, right?
Yes.
I wonder if that was written before the revelation about Orson Welles, the proof of Orson Welles' involvement in the writing came out.
Well, it was written in the 90s, so I'm guessing
maybe. Yeah, I don't know when that came. It's just interesting to wonder whether it was written.
Interesting that Fincher clearly must know that, but decided to do it anyway.
Well, maybe he just thinks like, this is my dad's passion project that never got made. I'm not going to change a word. I'm just going to roll with it. Which kind of is always difficult. It's always difficult when it's based on people and it's historical, because it is like, you do kind of know better though now.
Yeah.
It's like Titanic. It's like, you kind of shit on people that were really heroes on that boat. From all accounts, I
do think you have to be very careful with historical characters. I don't think there's much to the detriment of the people in this movie. I think it's pretty well established that Louis B. Mayer was an asshole, and so was William Randolph Hearst. So it's
I
not
guess
like
it doesn't paint him in a good light anyway.
Yeah, they're not really telling you anything that you don't know as such.
And I guess
they're just sort of shifting it slightly in terms of Mankiewicz and Wells, so it's
and artistic license, I guess, to an extent.
Yeah, I think you can definitely put a big healthy dose of artistic license on this.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, yeah, especially with the direction and style.
Yeah, it's certainly, and I will say, it certainly doesn't feel like a Fincher movie. It doesn't have any of his sort of his usual. Tropes or ticks. I would have said it feels
like it might just be like a real passion project of his father that he just.
That's
decided,
the impression I get.
I'm going to do this in the way that he envisaged it, and just it's not my movie, it's my father's, and I'm just gonna. I like that. There's something to be said for that.
I do. I think yeah. I think that's true. I think it's a lovely thing actually.
Yeah.
And like I said, Oldman's performance is fantastic. He's really reveling in this role. And Amanda Seyfried, who, although her part's quite small, in the scenes that she's in, I think it's one of my favourite performances that I've ever seen her do. She's really good as this actress who's kept by this powerful guy. It's really good, and of course he has this sort of charming relationship with her that I don't know whether was true in real life, but it works so well in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say I really enjoyed it. I would endorse this movie. I think it's really good. I really enjoyed it. I think the performances are great. It was filmed really, really well. I think it's going to be difficult for a lot of people to get past.
It's
the
difficult
black
for
and
a lot
white
of
and the stylized acting.
It's difficult for a lot of people to watch movies from that period, in general.
Yeah, my wife can't.
Yeah, a lot of people can't. It's just like a real barrier to entry.
No, much to my horror, my wife really does not like black and white movies. So but there you go.
On a Sunday evening, it's my preference. It's a black and white movie on a Sunday evening is like my preference of movie if I'm going to watch one. But yeah, it's funny. Some people just can't do it. And that's fair enough. And also with the acting as well, that acting style is very different.
Yeah, it really is.
And it does take some getting used to. You need to put yourself in the mind of people that were overacting for the stage their entire careers, and then all of a sudden they're just thrown in front of a camera, and it's like, well, this is how we act. You look at like Fritz in Dracula and stuff, and it's like, I can see what you're doing. That would have worked on stage real well.
And I think Mank does slightly suffer from that. It does feel at times like it was meant for the stage and not for a film. So you do get that sort of slight feeling that
it's an interesting direction to take, though. And as someone who loves that period of film, it kind of intrigues me, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree, it could put a lot of people off. I could totally see how that could put people off.
I would recommend it. I think it's and I would also say even though it's not completely about Citizen Kane, I would say if you haven't seen Citizen Kane, go see Citizen Kane. It's a brilliant movie.
Citizen Kane is not overrated. It's not. It
really isn't.
Everything you've heard about that movie, it's fucking true. It is that good. It really is that good. It's funny because some of those movies, especially the ones you get told in school, are like, these are the movies. Some of those don't really. You're like, yeah, they're good films, but like, see, I've always thought like Casablanca, I think, is a great movie, but I do think it's overrated. But Citizen Kane, I do not.
I mean, not so much these days, but when we were kids, Gone with the Wind.
Oh, God,
everybody. Yeah. I mean, Gone with the Wind is kind of like this. It was the paragon of the movie making thing, and the Gone with the Wind is boring as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, it's a well-made movie.
That movie goes on forever. Oh, it's beautiful and it's really well made and it's really well acted, but God, is it long?
It does.
God, is it fucking boring?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. Oh,
whereas I think Citizen Kane isn't. It still holds up as a great movie.
Citizen Kane is still a great movie to watch today. Yeah, I agree. It stands the test of time for sure.
Well, it's genuinely a cornerstone of cinema.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that influenced almost everything that came after it.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. And I've always said, I've always argued that for me, King Kong should be up there with Citizen Kane in terms of what it did for cinema and all that kind of stuff. But that's a side tangent for another day. So the only other film I've watched in recent weeks is The Craft Legacy.
I've been waiting for this.
Well, yeah. I mean,
the thing is at the moment it's on pay-per-view, and I know it's going to be rubbish.
Don't pay to view.
That's what I was thinking. Do I pay for it? Do I? Because I love The Craft.
I think you'll be angered by
this. This is not going to be good, is it? So,
I think the more you're attached to The Craft, the more you will be angry.
Yeah, I guess I'm not going to pay for it then.
I wouldn't pay for it. It'll end up on Netflix or somewhere, and it won't be long. I don't think. So it's directed by Zoe Lister-Jones, who I actually think is quite a great actress in her own right, but I don't think I've ever known her direct anything until this. So I don't know if this is her first film in terms of directing.
I didn't realise that it's she directed it. Okay.
Yeah, so
she's a great act. She's a really good actress.
She is, but I don't know her for directing, so I don't know if this is. I'm gonna have a quick look now to see if I don't know if maybe this is just the only movie she's directed. It looks like it might be the first film she's directed. Oh no, Band-Aid was a film that she at least co-directed. Which is a film I've not seen as well. So
no.
But in any case, yeah, The Craft Legacy is starring Callie Spaney, Gideon Adlon,
Adlon.
Lovey Simone, and a thoroughly could not give a fuck just collecting a paycheck David Duchovny.
Yeah, I've seen the trailers, and I've seen a couple of reviews of this.
Doesn't give a shit,
and he is, from what I've seen, he's full in Bruce Willis mode, isn't he?
He doesn't give a fuck. I mean, I say that. I mean, like, because it's one of those things, though, isn't it? Because David Duchovny is known for giving those kind of lethargic, understated performances anyway. It's kind of what he does. But there's a difference between that and what we've got here, where clearly just doesn't care.
Did you ever watch Californication?
Right. So he's basically... So in Californication, that's intentional.
Yes.
Right. But he's basically the same character here to an extent.
TMMUDI then.
But just... But I don't think, like, intentionally... Like, it's just because I could be wrong. But it came across just like he just didn't give a shit.
A lot of people have said, is in Californication, is he just playing himself, really?
Maybe. Maybe.
And I bloody love Californication.
I think it's a great series.
Later seasons were a bit ropey, but overall, I think it's a great series. And he's fantastic in it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love the again, first few seasons of X-Files are fantastic.
I rewatched most of the X-Files recently. I blitzed through that. Yeah, just because I really fancied watching some X-Files, and I was surprised how much it grabbed me, to be honest.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean...
I stopped that when he left.
Yeah, so I watched through that. That was one of the major reasons I wanted to watch it, because I was like, I gave up when he left. But I actually quite enjoyed it. It was good.
Okay.
Because he doesn't really leave. He's still around, and they're looking for him. And he kind of reduced himself to guest starring for a season or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mostly held up. There are some really dodgy effects in the later seasons. When CGI starts becoming a thing, that's when the X-Files gets really unwatchable in places.
Yeah.
But still, some of the stories are great, and it gets ridiculous. Like, when it gets to the point of, like, fucking, like, Scully's, like, you've literally fucking seen shape-shifting aliens.
Oh,
Guy literally shape-shifted from...
We've discussed this before.
And she's still like, I don't believe it. It's like, what? You were literally on a spaceship yesterday. Like, the fuck?
Where Scully should have started believing,
is like season 2, 3?
Yeah, exactly.
By season 8, she's still like...
It's like, Christ. But I did start watching the launched X-Files, and the first season of that was really good.
It was, yeah.
The second season was rubbish.
It was hit and miss, wasn't it? The second season.
Yeah,
I gave up. Don't think I finished the second season.
I didn't. No.
Yeah,
which
really.
is a shame, because that first season had a lot of promise. It was quite good. There were some really great episodes. I loved the man wolf or whatever it was, the wolf that was a man thing. That was a brilliant.
That was probably the strongest episode, I think. That one, the reverse werewolf thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I really liked that. I really enjoyed that. So in any case, yes, the Craft Legacy from 2020. Basically, it opens with 3 girls, as you would expect, Frankie, Tabby, and Lords, and they're trying to freeze time with magic. Realize that they can't do it because, as is craft lore, they need a fourth. And in comes Lily, who has just moved to town with her mother, who is she's a therapist, and she's dating Adam, who has 3 sons, played by David Duchovny.
Right.
And there's this really weird like thing where like you're not really quite sure. Like she's so. It could just be magic, who knows? But like Helen, her mum has obviously been dating David Duchovny for a long time, right? Because they're moving in together. And yet Lily's never like met him, or like she doesn't really know doesn't really know him at all.
But they've been going out for a while.
Well, I would assume so. They're moving in together. I mean, I don't know. I would have introduced you to my daughter by now.
I was just going to say, I'm sorry, if you're a mother who's dating someone, you probably do put off the meeting for a while.
Not until you're moving, no.
But you don't make the decision to move in with that person without your daughter having met. That is bad parent.
And I mean, maybe she has met him already. The movie gave me the impression that if they'd met, it was like for a second, and now she's moving in, and she's moving into a house, obviously with her mum, but with 3 guys and the father Adam, this. So first day of school, and I must admit, you
are really struggling with this, aren't you?
The opening of the movie, I've forgotten most of it. I'm looking at Wikipedia to remind myself what happened. I must admit, the opening of this movie did actually. I was like, okay, like maybe, like the first sort of 10-15 minutes. Lily's in class on her first day of school, and she has her period. Again, kind of like. They kind of imply that it's her first period, but she looks way too old to be having her first period. So it's kind of weird, but fine. Right. Yeah, but they do that in America, don't they? I've noticed they always cast really old for school. Like, way too old, like, distractingly old for school. It's like fucking Grease, when it's like, what? Like, you're not, you're way too old.
But they're clearly 30-year-old people.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that bad, but but in any case, she has her period in class, and she's mocked by Timmy, who is basically this movie's Skeet, from the Craft. That's
gotcha.
him, right? Yep. So she bleeds heavily in class, and obviously first day of school, mortifyingly embarrassing anyway. And then obviously it's mocked by the class bully who points it out, and she runs to the toilet, and then the 3 girls approach her and give her a change of trousers. And, they're just friendly to her because they see her as an outsider. She's an outsider, they're an outsider, and all that kind of stuff. Now, with the Craft, the Craft is like quintessentially, I would say, a 90s, it's just like 90s teen coming-of-age sci-fi movie, right? Fantasy. It's quintessential that generation. And I would say, unfortunately, the Craft legacy is very much 2020's The Craft legacy. It is exactly what you would expect from, like, it ticks every box of what you would expect a movie of 2020 to be. It is like as subtle as a fucking sledgehammer to the face, with a lot of what this film tries to do. So you've got your outsiders, you've got your 3, they make friends, form a coven, and like, they're basically, like in the first movie there was subtlety, right? and a lot of the spells and stuff, some of them were a bit wacky, changing the color of hair and fine, but for the most part it wasn't too over the top.
I think the thing with the Craft, it's these 3 girls, as it were. These 3 girls are all damaged in some way. They've all got their little sort of things, and they want, initially, at least 2 of them, they just would like some power so that they could
fix
their
like
situation. They're doing something. Exactly. Yeah. It's only when Fairuza Balk's character, when Nancy goes too far and starts getting power hungry, that it goes wrong.
Absolutely.
So
and with the first movie, with The Craft, you have a character who's horribly scarred, and she just wants to come out of her shell and not have to cover up and just be like a normal person, like, you know,
and not have these painful treatments,
not have these oh my god, I rewatched The Craft a couple of weeks, but just before I watched this one, which was a terrible idea, but it really showed this movie up, but god, that still makes me wince, that scene when she gets the surgery. Like, Jesus, it's just, they're like, it might hurt a bit, and she's just like, Jesus Christ, hurt a bit. Like, no,
that's not a bit.
That's a lot. So, you know, you had that, and then you had Nancy, who was from an abusive father, abusive family. Her mum's abused,
trash, horrible
trailer trash. They've got real reasons, and they're real.
Yeah, and Rochelle is that, you know, has to deal with all the racism and the fact that, you know, she's picked on by the school princess, you know. So it might be cliched, but they all have a reason for why they're like they are.
They do, and they're real outsiders. And in this film, it's weird because they kind of paint them as outsiders. They don't really have the motivations of, I would say, of The Craft. Like,
so they don't give them anything to
not really
be why they're like they are. They're just
not really. I mean, Lily Lily is mocked and belittled on her first day of school in a really horrible way, and I get that.
Well, she's the new girl, so you at least expect a certain amount of
absolutely. And obviously you've got I think it's Tabby. That's the black girl, and she's. She experiences some racism, so again, I understand that she experiences some racism and from one of the popular girls and stuff, and so fair enough. But it's nowhere near as interesting or fleshed out as the original movie did, you know. Like I really felt for I forget the name of the character, but the character who's like burned in The Craft. You really feel for her, and you're like, I can see why you want to do this. These girls kind of have pretty good Bonnie, yes. These girls kind of have pretty good lives. And while they're outsiders, they still get invited to like the cool parties and things.
Yeah, and they never did. They never got any of that in The
Craft. They were like proper outsiders, and in this it's not so much. But anyway, so I won't spoil too much of the movie in case people do want to watch it. But effectively, they form the Coven and they succeed in freezing time, and they are the fucking X-Men now, right? Like, I am not kidding you. Their powers, the powers are fucking ridiculous. They freeze time, so they decide to seek revenge on Timmy, right? And so they go in, they break into his house, and they go into his room, and then they have to find something to do a spell. And it has to be something of his or something, whatever. And I think they find a condom. I think it's a used condom. The scene is edited appallingly badly because I guess they decided it was going to be a condom. I can only assume it's a condom, but they weren't obviously allowed to show it, so like it's always obscured, and they won't show you what it is, even though it's pretty obviously a used condom. But they obviously couldn't show it, so it's really poorly edited to kind of hide it.
Yeah, that's probably a studio thing, isn't it? They probably didn't.
Yeah, probably. But it's just really awkward scene. But anyway, he comes home while they're up there, and they just freeze time. I mean, they're like, freeze, and time just freezes, and they like walk around him and just look at him, and he's just frozen. It's just frozen time, but it's all like effortless. Like, they've got the powers that Nancy had at the end of the movie, you know?
Right,
like,
okay.
Like, just immediately, the four of them have just got, like, ungodly powers. And like, you know, like, you had the hair change, which is probably the naffest kind of thing in the original Craft, like, in terms of what they do with their powers. It's probably the naffest one. In this one, they're like, oh, magic makeup on me, and it's all like this magical makeup with like some of the worst effects I've seen in a long time. That as well is really bad.
I think I've just seen a picture of that.
Oh, have you? It's awful. It's fucking awful, and believe me, it's worse in motion. I would say than seeing it still. It's terrible. Some of the effects in this movie.
One of the worst things about the hair changing in The Craft is the fact that Robin Tunney is wearing a wig in that movie, a really bad wig. Because previously she'd been in Empire Records, which another movie which is really, really flawed, but I love.
I like that movie,
where
yeah.
she shaved her head. And so she's wearing a wig, and it's a really bad wig. But when you see the hair color change, it really, really stands out how bad that wig is.
It's probably the worst effect in The Craft.
I think it is, yeah.
But I would say, aside from that, The Craft actually holds up way better than The Craft Legacy does for effects.
Too much that, so apart from when Nancy starts floating around and stuff.
Well, for example, there is because this movie, like, as much as it's one of those sequels that's really just a fucking remake for the most part. So you get the morphing scene in this, where one of the characters is like pretends to be someone else, and then they morph into their true form, and you're like, oh, it's them, it's not the person, which Nancy did in the original Craft. It looked so much better in 1996 than it does in the CGI 2020. It looks terrible.
Ooh, that's not good.
But anyway, I am going to spoil a bit of this movie because I need to. So it's 2020, and we have to. It is 2020's The Craft as much as The Craft was 1996's The Craft. So
yeah.
The girls basically do a spell on Timmy. Actually, I'm going to spoil the whole fucking movie. Screw it. They cast a spell on Timmy. I'm rambling. Sorry, I will get through this.
Yes.
I need to speed up.
I know what they do with Timmy. I've heard people talk about this.
So they make him nice and they make him honest, and he comes out as bisexual, basically.
Right. Yep.
And in a moment, I was like, okay, cool. Fair enough. But going alongside this. Basically, this movie, the enemy, the villain of this movie is David Duchovny.
Yeah.
And David Duchovny is... he's like...
He's the leader of the patriarchy, isn't he?
Yes, he fucking is. He is... the subtlety of a fucking brick. He is a warlock. Family of and his whole family and his whole group are all males, and they're all about toxic masculinity. David Duchovny has written several books on being masculine and how cool it is to be masculine. And spoilers, after Timmy comes out as bisexual, he gets murdered. Basically, it turns out that it's so subtle in this movie that Adam, played by David Duchovny, kills the guy because he's not man enough. He's God, you come out as bisexual and you're showing emotion, you prick. So basically, the movie, the movie's villains here are basically toxic masculine warlocks. And it's like I said, yeah, of course they are. And again, I don't necessarily have a problem if that's the way they wanted to go with it. But you just feel like if they'd done this in The Craft in 1996, it would have been better written. It would have been more subtly done, and it just would have been just. Oh, it's the execution, and it's just like we want to just do this. It's got to be about toxic masculinity. It's got to be all the things, all the buzzwords from the last 3 years. We need that in our movie, and it really just takes what could have been an interesting, if average, remake covered as a sequel into just awful. It's just cringe, It's just so in your face. It's just really cringe. It's awful, to be honest. And the effects towards the end, especially with David Duchovny, it's awful. Their powers are ridiculous compared to the first movie. Like light as a feather, stiff as a board. Was subtle, and it took them along. You felt like it was a lot of work. To make that work. This movie is like, fuck it, we can fly, it's fine. It just, they've just got like superpowers. It literally feels like, what's that fucking movie? The New Mutants. It's like that. It's like that with The Craft. Basically, it feels like that.
Right.
They've just got powers, and they just, it's got none of the subtlety. And I always felt like with The Craft, for all of its silly 90s-ness.
Yeah.
Always felt like
I
with
mean,
The Craft, it was people that knew.
I adore The Craft.
I know
but
you do.
It's not the greatest movie.
No, of course it's
even
not.
I know that it's not a great movie, but I absolutely adore The Craft.
But The Craft 96, I feel like it's a movie where I feel like the people that made that movie did their research or had a passion for witchcraft.
Yeah.
And that shows. This movie, I get none of that. This movie is
Veruza Balk went on. She bought a magic shop after that movie.
Yeah. She did.
She ran a magic shop for years.
Yeah. I think she still does. But yes. So yes, it's all about toxic masculine warlocks. And they take the lines from the original movie. Like it ends.
I
with,
know the weird. They use the weirdos,
and
line,
it's in the worst place. Because in the first one, they just say it to a bus driver, and it's just they just say it.
Yeah.
And it's that works. But in this movie, it's like, oh my god, like let's take out our book of quotes from the first movie. It's really bad. And and in the end, it turns out, Helen's real birth mother is no shock to anybody,
Yes.
Although I will say, when I was watching it, immediately, my immediate thought when I started watching this movie was, I was like, she's going to be fucking Nancy's daughter, right?
Yep.
But then as the movie went on, I turned to my fiance and I was like, but she can't be, because Nancy lost all of her power. So, like, would she have inherited anything from her mother? Like it would have made more sense if she was the daughter of one of the other ones, to be honest.
She was bound, wasn't she? So theoretically, she might still have her powers, but they're bound.
Maybe. So maybe her daughter then has. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
I'm making. I'm just thinking of stuff like along this lines.
No. That's fine. Yeah.
That
that's
would
fine.
be.
But it was.
She has the potential. So it's.
Yes.
It's a possibility that her daughter would have the potential.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, it's just a really bad remake. It's one of those remakes. It's just a terrible remake, just masquerading as a sequel.
As a sequel-y reboot type
and
thing.
I think I enjoyed bits of it. Didn't mind the first. It kind of starts off all right, and then it just quickly goes downhill. But I would say I like the original Craft. But I don't. I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm like a huge fan of the original Craft.
Yeah.
I would say if you're a massive fan of the original Craft, this movie will probably piss you off. Really
I think that's why I haven't watched it.
That's the main reason why I'd say to you, don't watch it until you get it for free. Because I feel like it will anger you because of your love of the Craft. Like in the same way that someone could probably watch Star Trek Discovery and just be like, yeah, this is kind of crap, but fine.
Yeah.
But if you love Star Trek, it's like, oh god.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
I mean,
so.
I think I've said it before. I had the video shop stand up of the Craft in my bedroom. You did say
that, yeah.
That's a
serious level of fandom.
Our local video. It used to stand next to my bed when I was when I was at sort of college and stuff. Unfortunately, it ended up it was stored in a garage that got wet. Sadly, but
Oh, damn. That's an awesome standee as well. That'd be really.
Yeah,
cool.
It's a great stand. It's like I said, it's a really flawed movie, The Craft. Of course it is. Really questionable stuff in the Craft, but I absolutely adore it. It's a great movie, and I think it has four great female leads in it. They're genuinely
the cast are superb.
Good leads.
It's also quite a dark movie
people
as
to
well.
see it because it's great. Yeah,
it's also quite a dark movie. I mean, this movie's got nothing like the scene with the bugs in the house and all that sort of creepy shit. It's none of that. It's got nothing like that. It doesn't even approach that kind of thing, And that was the other thing.
Well, I can't say I'm surprised.
No, of course not. And to be honest, we knew it was probably going to be bad.
I did like the trailer. I thought the trailer was quite good.
Because we watched this, I think it was like Halloween weekend or the weekend after Halloween. And it was either that or The Witches. And I was like, the trailer for The Witches looks like dog shit. I do not
Oh
want to watch
god,
that
yeah,
movie.
that looks terrible.
Whereas the Craft trailer, I was like, this is probably going to be a rubbish movie. But the trailer was like, it was all right. It was like, this might be watchable, you know?
Yeah.
It might be all right. But no, can't recommend it, I'm afraid. But you know, I'm sure it will. It may appeal to people that are, you know, really love the current movements that are going on and all that stuff. It may be for them. They may love it. It wasn't for me.
It's interesting that it's a 15, but they couldn't show a condom. Or a used condom, I suppose.
I assume it was a condom. I mean, they hint very heavily that that's what it is, but they don't show it, whatever it is. They go out of their way to hide it. In a, like, fucking Austin Powers kind of, you know...
Move on to the next scene.
Yeah, like, you know, where he's got, like, the fruit basket in front of, you know, in front of his penis and stuff. It's like, something, it's like that. It's like someone's shoulder in the way, or... Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. But yeah,
well, actually...
Or Jackie Chan. Oh my god, can you remember that movie? I can't remember what movie that is now. When he has the fight naked, and he keeps covering himself up, and things keep hiding it. That's amazing, that fight scene. I can't remember what movie that's in. It's a fight scene where he's fighting naked, and he keeps trying to cover himself up, and it's so well choreographed because, like, obviously he covers himself the whole time. It's incredible.
Well, it's Jackie Chan. He's the master of
course,
stuff, you know.
But yeah, so yeah, sorry, you were going to say.
Sorry, no, I was just saying, you know, his choreography is fantastic. So it's brilliant.
It's sad to see him these days.
Well, it's not surprising. I mean, that guy's
surprising.
Fucking. Oh.
It's not surprising, but I see a film like The Foreigner, which I actually thought was a really good movie, but it just made me sad watching him shuffle around. You know? It's like, oh, I mean, it was bound to happen. I mean, to be honest,
he's more machine than man, isn't he? These days,
oh god, he must have a lot of titanium in him, I would imagine.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things where it's like, I just kind of never. I wonder if he thinks sometimes he's like, I never expected to live this long. I never really thought I'd get to this age, and now I'm really suffering with everything. You know, because I thought he would just get sawed in half at some point on some fucking ridiculous stunt. To be honest,
I mean, at some point, like one of the stunts is bound to, you know, take.
And yet somehow
finish him off.
Somehow,
I don't think anybody would be surprised.
No. If you were putting bets in the 90s, like, I would have said Guy would be dead by like 2002. You know, just like something would have done something ridiculous, and no, but yeah, he survived. And it is a bit sad seeing him these days because he is a bit shuffly, but he's still making good movies, which is cool. So that's good. Have you watched?
One of the things I mean, for Chan as well is that a lot of his movies are about the you know, the slapstick and all that sort of stuff, and it was the way he wanted to go, because he didn't want to be keep getting compared to Bruce Lee and stuff like that. But what people forget is that some of his movies, he is a genuinely good actor. He's had some really good dramatic roles.
He really
where
is
he hasn't been throwing himself around or doing any martial arts at all. They're just few and far between.
I always remember
don't really want to see those movies, you know.
Yeah, I always remember watching Rumble in the Bronx. And my brother loved that movie, and it was like,
I got a soft spot.
And we were like, let's watch Rumble in Hong Kong, and it's like, oh, he's a complete bastard in this film. It's like, he's not Jackie Chan at all. You know, it's like, oh, similar name, very different. But yeah, have you watched anything else?
I have, but I just remember while you were talking about the craft and talk about modern politics and stuff. Yeah. I did forget one thing about my review of Mank, and that was. There is a lot of political stuff in Mank that is very reflecting of now, which was a bit on the nose for me.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that I forgot to point out, that was a bit of a detriment to the movie, but I still say it's a good movie. So
yeah, and I mean that kind of stuff can be done well.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's nothing wrong with commenting on current politics if you want to do it. There's just it's just
absolutely.
write it well. And
it did feel a little heavy-handed here, but you know, it's a small thing.
I've got nothing nothing wrong with a film about a toxic male being, you know, taught a lesson. But you need to frame that right. It needs to be earned, and I need to kind of see why. You know, don't just shove it into your movie with no real plot or plan. You know it. So yeah. So what have you watched?
So I have seen The Wolf of Snow Hollow.
Oh, that's an interesting name.
Yeah. So this is starring and directed by Jim Cummings.
Okay.
Who previously did Thunder Road and a few other bits and pieces. I've not seen him in anything before. It's got Ricky Lindholm, who I absolutely adore. I think she's a fantastic actress. And it's got the last performance of Robert Forster.
I love that poster.
Yeah, it's a great poster,
That's
isn't it?
It's a wonderful poster. It's like a 70s style thing going on.
It is. It's really good. This takes place in the obvious little town of Snow Hollow.
Uh-huh.
And it's weirdly it's kind of a Christmas movie almost. It's not, but in the same way Die Hard is, it's set at Christmas. So
sure.
You have Jim Cummings plays this John, who is this police guy. He's not. He's I guess he's a marshal. His father is the sheriff, played by Robert Forster, and they are the most incompetent police you've seen in a while. The sheriff is having heart problems, but they're trying to keep that quiet away from the other police.
Yeah.
Jim Cummings' character John is the son of the sheriff, and he is a recovering alcoholic. And he's estranged from his family, so he has a daughter that he doesn't see very often, who is coming to stay with him. She's about to go off to some sort of I think it's a ballet school or something.
Mm-hmm.
And while this is all sort of going on, a couple not a couple. A couple are having a holiday there, and the wife, the girlfriend is horribly and brutally murdered.
Okay.
And her sexual organs are taken away.
Jesus.
Yeah. Completely brutal. The cops have no idea what they're doing. They're a complete bunch of fuck ups. And they first of all they think, somebody says it's an animal, and they're like, no, it's not an animal, it's a man.
Why would an animal do that?
Yeah, exactly. So John, this guy says, no, it's not, it's a man. I'm going to prove it's a man.
Animals tend to eat what they kill.
Exactly, yeah.
And not just their genitals.
He's having breakdowns, and he's having all this sort of stuff with these idiots that are his officers.
Mm-hmm.
And another murder happens, and it seems that they're happening on the full moon.
Right.
And so you think, well, it's a werewolf, or is it a werewolf? It's that whole sort of thing.
Someone thinking they're a werewolf, someone,
yes.
mad. Yeah.
So, I liked this movie.
There's a but in there.
Well done. Yeah. So the main character is quite unlikable.
Okay.
At times it's very hard to sort of stay with him, but you do, because everybody else around him, with the exception of Ricky Lindhorn's detective Robinson, she's the only one that does seem slightly competent.
Right.
With the exception of everybody else is so much of an asshole that he's a little bit better than they are.
Yeah.
So you do get that sort of you're with that character because he's so much better than he's a fraction better than everybody else.
Fair enough. I mean, it must have been an intentional choice, I would assume.
Oh, it is. Well, he wrote.
He directed, and starred, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. So he is. It's definitely intentional that he's the way he is. The weird thing about this movie is its tone is so shifting.
Oh.
It's very funny at times. There's some very good jokes in it. But there's one particular scene that so him and some of his officers are at the coroner going over the latest body.
Right.
And the coroner, he has this sort of almost slapstick fight with the coroner. there's some sort of slapping and silliness, and this is interchanged with the murder.
Oh.
So you're seeing this horrible, brutal, like arm losing murder going on, while you're also seeing this weird slapstick fight going on.
Oh god.
And it's like the tone here is very odd. It's very
That's like fucking Last House on the Left levels of tone, like tone deaf, where you're like, oh, there's like someone being brutally abused, cut to bumbling police joking around with comedy music, like the fuck. That's especially when it comes to scenes, like horrific, violent, horrible scenes. You almost make a mockery of it when you do that. You kind of belittle the scene.
What's going on? Yeah, exactly. It does. It kind of takes you out of it. There were some other weird choices that sort of happen with. I don't want to sort of spoil anything, but I guess it's not really spoiling it. There's a bit where his daughter is attacked, and he's there. He sort of rescues her, but then she goes off on some sort of rant about how he's a bad father, and it's like she's just been attacked by maybe a werewolf, and you're having a go at your father for being a shit father.
Yeah.
Really? Honest, it's like, shouldn't you just be fucking absolutely bricking it that you've just been attacked by a werewolf?
Yeah.
It's a very odd choice. So sometimes it's a little tin-eary. It's a bit sort of, what the hell's going on? But I will also say, for the most part, I really enjoyed it as a horror movie. It's got some nice stuff in it. It's got it does have some genuinely funny stuff in it, and it's got some really horrific deaths in it. But sometimes they clash so weirdly that it does. I think we discussed recently like American Werewolf in London and Evil Dead, and those are very well balanced horror comedies.
Yes, extremely well balanced, and managed to be scary and funny at the same time. Yeah,
this doesn't quite pull that off. It doesn't quite have the right mixture of the tone. It kind of mixes it together at times, and that really is jarring. Especially as I said, that scene with the coroner and the killing, that scene was completely
all over the place.
Really misjudged. Really, really badly judged.
I mean, I would give some leeway for just purely for the fact that I think horror comedy is a very difficult balance.
Absolutely.
But that just sounds like completely tone. But that sort of sounds completely tone deaf. That sounds like that's above and beyond. Yeah.
But it does have really good performances. Ricky Lindholm is great. Jim Cummings is actually good at what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people will definitely not want to follow this guy. They will have a complete problem with it, and that is completely understandable because he is quite an unlikable character.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to sort of, stick with it, I actually do think it's a good movie. It was really enjoyable, especially in the stuff that we've seen, in this year. I think this is actually, for the most part, a pretty well made movie. It's just that sometimes the tone is wrong, and I think the end will because I've seen some reviews. The end is definitely will divide people,
right?
And I'm not going to give anything away. I'm not going to say what happens at the end. But I for the most part I really enjoyed it. It's a nice horror thriller. It's got its genuine funny moments, and it's got genuinely horrific moments. It's just that sometimes the balance is a little muddled.
That's a shame.
But I would say,
worth a watch anyway.
I would say it's worth a watch. It's for the most part well done.
Where is this film?
It's pay-per-view.
Okay.
I got it on Amazon.
Yeah, so just VOD.
So yeah.
Nice. Have you seen anything else, or should we talk about the death of cinema?
I think that's that. Yeah, that's it for
since you just mentioned video on demand. Let's talk about
we're gonna have to, aren't we? Yeah.
the fact that cinema
Everything we want to see has now been dropped on
onto HBO Max in America,
Max.
which I think, unfortunately, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that means the death of the MonsterVerse. I think there will not be a sequel to Godzilla vs Kong, and I think it's the death.
It will be greatly reduced.
Yeah,
they will spend nothing on it,
and I think it's probably the death of any Dune sequel, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like the death of the MonsterVerse. I love Godzilla, obviously. But
it's already on a loser anyway.
But I already
those movies are.
They are. But also, I
Sadly.
know that Toho still exists, so I'll still get Godzilla.
Yeah,
it's fine.
There is that. Yeah,
with this Dune looks so good, and I can't see how they're going to get a sequel if they do the VOD route, and it's such bullshit publicity from Warner Brothers. With their like, we think this will be good for theaters. Like, fuck off.
How?
Fuck off.
How do you think it's good for theaters?
It's gonna absolutely kill theaters in America. I mean, luckily we'll still get to see all the movies in the cinema, I think, because we don't have HBO Max.
Yeah. I think, as far as I'm aware, that over here the deal is that we're still getting most of them in cinemas.
Yeah.
And I think. But I'm guessing at some point they'll make deals with Netflix or Amazon or one.
Yes.
I think we're due to get HBO end of next year. I think.
Right. So by then it'll be too late anyway.
Exactly. And the thing is that by then we'll have seen it all on pirate. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, this is the thing. As soon as that fucking hit, as soon as any of those movies hit, the Wonder Woman Christmas Day hits HBO Max. It'll be on the fucking internet within an hour.
Yep.
And free.
Absolutely.
And
Wonder Woman has got. Wonder Woman does have a deal with Sky.
Oh, does
so
it?
That's going to be on.
And that'd be a £30 movie to rent then, or whatever.
That would be, yeah, exactly. So they've already got that one set up.
Right.
I think they've had that. Sky's had that set up for a while.
The problem as well is that although it sounds a bit more positive that HBO Max is just in America, unfortunately, American studios do not ever take into account the rest of the world. They just care about the American box office. So if it fails at the American box office, regardless of how much money it makes in UK, China, or anywhere else, it won't happen. I mean, look at Warcraft. Fucking tanked in America.
Oh, yeah.
Did amazing in China.
Yeah.
But they didn't make a sequel because it did bad in America
as well.
Yeah,
it did quite well in Europe, which is really the thing. Is I don't understand about that is they've been courting China for years. They've been putting scenes in for them. They've been getting the money, from China, and yet they still don't take into consideration the Chinese market. It's really fucking weird. It's complete fuck up in their thinking. It's really weird.
Yeah, it's bizarre, and I think the only hope we've got is that everything they've said. Although maybe the deal's done now. Maybe the deal's done. I was thinking if Wonder Woman tanks fucking horribly, then it might not happen. But if the deal's done, then the deal's done. I mean, if they've announced,
yeah, exactly. I mean, and the list of movies is not a small list of movies.
It's everything.
It's a big list. Yeah,
it's everything they were going to do next year.
Yeah, exactly. So it's. And the thing is, I also heard that Disney had a emergency meeting about it. As soon as they announced it,
I think all of them have, and I think unfortunately it ultimately can only result in probably the death of cinema, because now, my God, in America, HBO Max subscriptions are going to go through the roof. They're now going to be competing in a massive way with Netflix, Amazon, Apple TV, everyone else. So they're all going to be like, what movies can we buy?
Yeah.
Like, what can we take out of cinemas now? We want our piece of the cinema action. I also think this is probably the death of the Hollywood blockbuster. Money is not going to be spent on movies now. Not like they were.
No.
You've got some high budget movies on Netflix and stuff, but those Kong and like those movies with like hundreds of millions of dollars. I just don't see it now. They're done.
No,
They're done.
and they won't take risks on that. They won't. You know, I don't even think they're going to have the money to do that anyway. So
No.
and the thing is now you've got excuse me. I mean, you've seen the way they filmed The Mandalorian. They've got that computer screen that
seems to work quite well for them. But yeah,
works fantastically. You know, you can do that quite, you know, sustainably. So I imagine that a lot more movies are going to start using that technology.
Well, Disney have done it exclusively, haven't they?
Yeah. So more stuff's going to do that. More stuff is going to be on, you know, smaller things. They're not going to, you know, go off to exotic locations anymore because they don't really need to.
Yeah. I think it's a really sad day, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, I do honestly, unfortunately, believe that the chances of any sequels coming out for any of those movies is slim to none.
Yeah, I can't see.
To be honest, I just don't.
I mean,
see...
I think it was again. I think
it
June
would have been a
always
stretch anyway.
June was always onto a loser anyway, so you know I think it was always a slight. Well, there was a slight doubt that there would be ever a second one. I would say, because I think
June is
there's
niche.
not an. It is very. That's the thing. It's
for
not,
the size of the budget.
It's not a Star Wars movie. It's not, you know, it's not a Marvel movie. So you're not going to get those people that are going to come back, and you know, there aren't those Marvel devotees that will fucking watch anything.
No,
that's got Marvel stamped on it. June doesn't have that, so it was already kind of onto a loser anyway. And now with this, it doesn't have the potential to be a hit. No. You know, it doesn't have that sort of. Even if everybody sees it now, they're going to either see it pirated or in some other capacity, and it's not going to make the numbers. It just won't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will. You know, unless this vaccine doesn't work and we're all locked down, I am going to the cinema to see Godzilla vs. Kong, and I'm going to the cinema to see Dune. I do not want to see those at home.
No, I don't.
You know, and also, especially with Godzilla vs. Kong, like, I own every Godzilla movie, like, physically. Yeah. I want the DVD, so I'm not going to buy the digital version. Like, no. I want the physical version, so I will wait and get it physically. I want to see it in the cinema. I want to see it on a big screen. Come on. It's like...
Yeah.
Especially June. I mean, God, the visuals of that trailer. It felt wrong watching that trailer at home. Let alone, you know, the whole movie.
Villeneuve's an amazingly cinematic director.
Arrival is just gorgeous.
Yeah. And, you know, Blade Runner,
obviously. And there's another niche movie. They released that, and it's like, Blade Runner 2049 didn't do that well. It's like, well, no shit. The original didn't either. You know, like, what were you expecting? It's a cult movie.
Because I mean, that's another movie which
Tron Legacy is another one where it's like,
sold.
Well, what are you doing?
It's always people think Blade Runner's an action movie. It's not a fucking action movie. The amount of people are like, oh, there was no action. It's like, it's not a fucking action movie.
Believe me, I spent, was it 3 hours watching Blade Runner 2049 or something?
I know you had that guy in the cinema, didn't you?
Oh my God, I wanted to fucking hit that guy. And I actually thought that guy, I thought he was a teenager. And then when he stood up, he was about 50, 60. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe a grown adult just sat there and behaved the way you have for the last, like, you know, just leave, man. Like, just leave.
You're not enjoying it. Get the fuck up and go.
Well, and also,
stop making it shit for everybody else.
And also, it's like, did you watch the original? Like, I guess you couldn't have, because if you watched the original, you would not have gone into Blade Runner 2049 expecting action.
No.
At all. There's like, God, like, I'm trying to think now. Blade Runner. There's the scene where she's running and he shoots at her. Not really an action scene. It's in slow motion and it's quite moving. And then you've got a very brief fight at the end. Very brief. When he's thrown through walls.
Sort of fight with Leon. It's
barely,
which isn't really a fight. It's basically him just beating the shit out of Deckard.
Yeah, exactly. If you're there is that as well. Yeah, there is that. And then you've got the Rutger Hauer brief fight at the end. Not action though. It's not in
No.
any way an action movie. And yeah, it just blows my mind that people went into expecting anything but that. To be honest. But yes, it's a real shame, I think, for cinema, and it could well be the death of cinema, regardless of what Warner Brothers want to try and spin it.
Certainly will in America, I think. I can't imagine America's going to recover from this.
I think we'll end up with... I think we will end up with cinemas owned by studios, and that'll be it. You know, we'll have like a Netflix cinema, and we'll have a, you know, and it'll be like, oh, you can go see our movie, you know, in the cinema over there, before we put it on Netflix the next day, or at the same time if you want that cinema experience. And you know, I don't know. It's difficult.
I think
it's difficult because I do think cinemas in general made the wrong decision many years ago to chuck the price up at a time when they probably should have brought the price down to get more people in. Instead of that, they put the price up, which only drove more people away. And cinema has been on its ass for a long time, but this has killed it now. So it's a real shame. And personally, I know I speak for you, and I know I speak for my fiance, and I know I speak for a lot of people. Like, the cinema going experience is really important. To us anyway, to a lot of people, and it's going to be a real shame if that disappears.
When you have the right crowd and the right movie, nothing beats that.
No,
you know, I mean, like, in the last sort of few years, in the last couple of years, the movies like I've seen with you when we went to see Fury Road.
Oh my god!
You know,
even The Force Awakens.
Yeah,
I had a great time watching that.
You know.
Little did I know the sequels would ruin that movie, but at the time that movie seemed to be setting up something nice, and we had a good time. Yeah. So you know, it was good.
And you know, just like a movie like for me, a movie like oh god, what's it called? The Silent-y one with
Lighthouse,
Emily Blunt.
Oh, the Silent-y one. Oh,
yeah, you know,
yes, sorry, I'm with you. Fucking Quiet Place.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, I was thinking Silent Movie. I was like, Silent.
Quiet Place, there is so much wrong with that movie. There is so many stupid decisions.
It's massively overrated, things. But I imagine in the cinema it would have been great.
But when I saw that in the cinema with the crowd, I mean, I went in with a crowd that was noisy as fuck.
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes in,
silence.
Like, no one made an absolute sound during that movie, and we walked out of that film with people with full buckets of popcorn and drink.
Just like
no one ate or drank in that movie.
That's amazing.
It was a brilliant experience, and you know, the idea that we're not going to have that anymore is just heartbreaking.
And just like you know, I mean, $1 Million Baby was another one. Complete silence from that point on in the movie. And you know, like, God, even like I think of like some of like the best time that some of the best moment I probably spent on my own last year when I wasn't with my fiance or doing something with people was watching King of the Monsters on my own in the cinema. First thing on that Saturday, Sunday morning. I think it was a Saturday because I think I went and did D&D afterwards. You know. And just with a coffee, watching that movie on a big screen, and it's so like intertwined with my childhood and my that's the way I watch movies. At least initially. It's a real shame. I don't know what else to say about it. Just rambling now, but it's just it's a real shame. That's all I can say. It's a real shame, and I think it could well be the death of cinema. I hope it's not, but I don't see how they can bounce back from that.
I'm sure something will take its place, I guess, you know, some form. But whether it's the same, you know, whether it'll ever be the same again is highly doubtful, isn't it?
I think we'll always have the watershed in places like that. But the big cinemas, I don't really see how, you know, I don't really see how you're going to get Cineworld surviving this.
No,
I just think they're going to be like, sod it, close, you know.
And I mean, all the studios at the moment, they're all on losers. They've all got serious money problems.
Well, the problem is that most of them don't have money. They borrow money.
No, they don't. It's all borrowed, isn't it?
It's borrowed, and they pay it back almost immediately because they make the movie and release it. They reckon with Bond, was it you that said, someone was saying like they're losing like $1 million a week or a day or something stupid like that, just from inflation on the money they've spent and owe.
I think Wonder Woman was the same. They were using $1 million a week. I think it was something like that.
Jesus Christ. Because they owe it.
By not
releasing it. And I mean, good God, Wonder Woman was delayed by like a fucking 2 years before the COVID happened. So like, good Lord. But in any case, that's it's a real shame. But we'll see what happens next year. I will be intending to go to the cinema to see these movies. That's all I'm going to say about it. And I would encourage anyone else to do the same if it's safe.
Yeah. I mean, I just can't imagine not seeing Dune in the cinema.
No. I just
and like and like you, King of the Monsters. I mean, I can't imagine not seeing that in the cinema either. And I mean, it's even stuff that's really far away, like The Matrix. They've already said. I mean, I don't even think they're halfway through making that, are they?
I don't know. I
think they're still currently filming it. So, that's a while away yet, and they've already announced that. For HBO.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, well, that was a sour note to end the show, but it's been good.
Well, there's another little thing that piqued my interest, which I thought it was just how ludicrous and weird it sounds.
Okay.
Is Peter Dinklage has signed on to be the Toxic Avenger.
He's in it. He's not signed on to be it, has he? Is he playing Toxie?
I think so.
Oh my God.
Maybe I misread it, but I think he's certainly going to be in it.
If that's true, I am definitely watching that movie. Is it still Troma? Or have they just given the rights to someone else to make the movie?
I honestly don't know that. I don't know whether that's the case.
Because if it's still Troma, then it could be fun. If it's been given to a Hollywood studio, it's going to be fucking terrible. But if it's
I don't remember the last time I saw a Troma movie, to be honest.
It probably was Toxic Avenger. I think I watched it on a train once. Oh, yeah. Troma is still going.
It's been a while since I've seen one, so...
Yeah, they're still going. They're still selling movies on their website and stuff, I think.
Oh, right, okay.
I think Troma's still around. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure they're still around now. But, that is odd news, you're right.
It is very odd. Yeah. We should also add another sad note to the end. We should also mention Dave Prowse.
Of course. Yeah, God. It's because we do these every other week, because we do the other one in between. I forget.
Yeah.
Of course, Dave Prowse. A good age, but tragic nonetheless. Yeah.
And I mean, I remember him as the Green Cross Code man, and I remember him from Clockwork Orange, and he played the Monster a couple of times, and I'm sure he played a mummy as well, didn't he?
I don't know if he played the mummy. He definitely played the Monster. I forget the name of the movie he was playing it in, but yeah, he definitely played the Monster once, I think. And yeah, he may have played the mummy. I know he was certainly on the Hammer lot for a while anyway. So yeah.
And by all accounts, a genuinely lovely guy.
Yeah, seems really nice, didn't he? But real shame.
World bodybuilding champion, and he trained a lot of trained a lot of stars as well.
It's weird seeing him back then. I remember seeing him on I found on YouTube. I think it was Peter Cushing's "This Is Your Life." And he comes out in that, and even then he was using a walking stick. I think he just had surgery or something, like from like whatever. But God, he still looks massive. It's like, especially around people of that generation, it's like, whoa, like you freak. Yeah. But yeah,
I think sad, I think he trained Christopher Reeve for Superman.
He probably did. Yeah, I would imagine. He's like that generation's Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah,
because Lou Ferrigno trains like loads of celebrities now.
Well, I think they did. I think he was up for the Incredible Hulk. I think at one point. So
yeah, I can imagine. He would be.
Yeah.
I know Arnold passed on it. I know he was offered it, but
yeah.
But yeah, I guess anyone that was big at that time, they were like, "Oh, you're a big muscly guy," But yeah, horrible loss. But yeah, seemed like a lovely guy and an incredible career. So.
Yeah, really good career.
Do you have a film to watch next time?
Well, I'm guessing we should do something Christmassy,
All right.
it being as it is Christmas and all.
I think we did
and
Gremlins last year, didn't we?
We did do Gremlins last year. I do intend to watch a load of really bad Christmas movies for our next review session. There were a number of what look like terrible Christmas movies on it, and I'm definitely going to watch some of these in preparation for next time. But for the next weeks, as it were, I should we be boring and do Die Hard?
Yeah, we could do Die Hard. Why not?
Yeah, should we do Die Hard?
Yeah, why not?
Let's do Die Hard. Then.
It's a very easy film to watch, so it's not
exactly.
Yes, let's do Die Hard.
We're not stretching ourselves at all. We're
no,
doing
not at all. It's December. We're just chilling out. It's fine. Yeah, Die Hard. So we'll do Die Hard next time. Let me just get a calendar up here, because I think so. We've got Die Hard next time. Then I guess it'll be a review show, and then it'll probably be getting close to our top films of the year. After that. So, cool, that works for me. So next time we will discuss Die Hard. Thank you for listening, everybody.